back and relax. You're listening to the WealthTech Today podcast. I'm your host, Craig Iskowitz, founder of Ezra Group Consulting, and this podcast features interviews, news, and analysis about the trends and best practices of wealth management technology. My guest for this episode was Colley, president of Orion Technology. Reed is an OG in the wealth management startup space, having been the founder of Black Diamond back in 2003 and took the performance reporting category by storm. His firm was acquired by Advent Software in 2011. He got back into the game by founding Summit Wealth Systems in 2019, which was itself acquired by Orion last year. And that brings us to this episode. We had an amazing conversation and hit on a couple of topics. First was the acquisition of Summit Wealth and Orion's strategy. Then we shifted to the integration challenge and Orion's new Summit platform. And finally, Orion's recently launched enterprise intelligence layer called Denali AI. And speaking of AI intelligence, it seems everyone these days wants to talk to us about bringing intelligent AI into their firm. But this is only possible if your underlying tech and data strategy is designed with AI in mind. If you're running a wealth management firm and have questions about how you can best support and control your growing AI infrastructure, I want to tell you about a terrific offering from Ezra Group. We call it our Fractional CTO service, or Fracto. Our Fracto service can support your current CTO on specific projects or help build your technology and data strategy from the ground up. We can help your ops team from drowning in manual workarounds, or if you just made an acquisition, but now you've got 2 CRMs, 5 custodians, and nobody knows which system is the source of truth. Our Fracto service puts Ezra Group's senior consultants in your corner on a monthly retainer. We can fix your integrations, clean up your data, and execute those projects that have been sitting on the back burner for years. If you want to free up your firm for exponential growth, you need to run. Not walk to our website, ezragroup.com, and click the golden Contact Us button on the homepage to schedule a free consultation. We know what works and what doesn't. And now my standard housekeeping chores. Please subscribe to the show. Yada, yada, yada. Make sure to check out our sponsor, the Invest in Others Charitable Foundation at investinothers.org. And if you are a software vendor in the wealth management space, please make sure to register your product at our vendor portal so that your product's wealth tech integration score will always be up to date. Now let's kick this thing off. All right. I'm excited to introduce our next guest. It's Reed Colley, president of Orion Technology. Reed, finally got you here, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Craig. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could make it. And you're calling in you're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. We're meeting in the middle here.
Yep. I'm out here in San Francisco, you in New Jersey, and we have sunny weather right now, so that's all we're thankful for that. That's for sure.
We represent both coasts.
That's right.
It's actually a little sunny here in New Jersey. I can't complain. My house has got a southern exposure, so I get some sun in, which I appreciate. But we're not here talking about sun. We're here to talk about tech. So let's get going with this. Thanks again for being here. Got a bunch of questions for you. Some are hard, some are easy. Let's start with some of the easy ones. So you obviously everyone knows you. You've got a great pedigree in the industry, and coming to Orion. Part of it was launching your new Orion Summit product, which is their enterprise grade portfolio reporting experience. So what specific problems in the advisor and home office experience we're trying to solve with Orion's, with the Summit platform, that wasn't being addressed effectively with Orion's current platform?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And in some ways, it's the question that every advisor is trying to solve is how do they take advantage of technology, this proliferation of innovation that's happened over the last 15 plus years and put it to work for their clients and put it to work for their workflow. So what's not being addressed is that all of these systems that people have adopted and tried are disconnected. And all the advisors in the firms are left to play CTO or sit in the middle to try to get them to talk together. What we saw, and when we started Summit a few years ago, was the ability to bring all this together into a kind of a single pane of glass for advisors and to bring something together that was going to be effectively helping them tell their story. It's going to be tailored to what is most important for them and their workflows. But it really is solving that problem of what we've had of this disconnected technology and bringing everything together and really then having an impact on their clients' lives. The other big thing of that is that the amount of jobs that an advisor is doing and the amount of services firms are providing now has grown pretty substantially, if not exponentially. And so it requires different systems at times to make that happen. The key is getting those systems together, getting the data to talk, and bringing that together. So, Summit with Orion now together in our Orion Summit experience is about bringing all that data together, both data that we have from systems at Orion, from Summit data, and then also systems we don't, whether that's Salesforce, other planning tools, internal system data and views that they're using internally. Now it brings it all together in kind of a single pane of glass for everybody.
That's a term we've been throwing around for years. Single pane of glass. But
yeah, before that was called the silver bullet. I don't remember that one.
Yeah. Well, that was more for integrations.
Yeah. But it was still good. The one system to rule them all was what we were looking for. But that was back when there was only 3 systems. Now there's
right, of course. Yeah. It seemed complicated back then.
It was technically probably harder. Now there's just more to do.
And the silver bullet never worked. Right. But so even with the fewer systems back then, so fewer systems that were all local, right? You could
That's right.
touch it.
That's right. That was a huge barrier.
So everyone knows you were the founder of Black Diamond Reporting, and then the founder of Summit Wealth Systems. And at Summit Wealth, you built a strong reputation as a purpose-built platform before becoming part of Orion. So what ultimately drove your decision to sell Summit? You were an entrepreneur at heart, to Orion rather than continue scaling it. And what convinced you that Orion, I'm sure you had a lot of other suitors, was the right long-term home for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It really goes back to where I started when I wanted to start Summit, and my co-founder, Anthony Spurley, and I started was, let's go have an impact on the space. And this space in some ways had so much momentum, but it was still getting more and more fragmented. And how do we bring that together to drive real impact across firms, helping with their clients, but then really helping the space evolve? And so I think part of that is, in order to do that, it's hard to do that subscale. And as we got into it and we started proving out the concept, we saw the opportunity. If we could work with broader sets of data, broader sets of clients, that's where the impact would be. So that's where the conversation started happening. And how do you put, 2 and 2 together to make 5? We see this from the opportunity set. And when I got to Orion, it really drove it home from the beginning. The opportunity set is putting together our knowledge, putting together our ability to already work with clients, the distribution, but also just the talent and expertise of what advisors are trying to do with innovative technology to finally start to close those gaps and bring it together. So for me, it was always about driving impact in the space and making sure that we could be helping and moving the space forward, and driving it in a way that has, the right people, the right, I would say, platforms already in place. Orion's a great operations core at its heart, and we're focused on adding a growth and scale element to firms and how they would actually run their businesses over the next 5 years. So I think now we put that combination together, and it's been in some ways a better fit than I could have even thought of.
Nice. Which is, it's a very different fit for you than where you had been as an entrepreneur, where you're going from a tightly focused organization with less than 50 employees to leading a business unit inside a firm with well over 1,000 employees. I mean, just for comparison, I used to just call you up directly. This podcast invite had 7 other people besides you. And so you're in a whole different environment. What aspects of leadership, decision-making, communication were the biggest adjustment for you personally in this transition?
It's a good question. And in some ways it helps having done this twice. First of all, the team we have is, even though we have a fair number of employees and a really great set of talent that we can work with, it still is a pretty entrepreneurial heart. And I think that's what we see. And when I talk to my folks and I talk about, structures and process, a lot of them say, I just want to go build great things. Like, how do we go do that? And that's the heart of entrepreneurship, is that you have this, innovation flywheel that gets created by thinking of new ideas to solve problems for your clients, getting in front of them, getting the feedback, innovating, getting a better solution, putting in front of them, putting more and more out there. And that DNA is definitely at Orion. I would say that, having sold to Advent in 2011, so gosh, sounds like many, many moons ago at this point. But at that point, and it was, I guess. But at that point, it was similar, and Advent was a similar size when we sold Black Diamond to Advent, and I think there were similar bones there, but the difference with Orion is a real desire to go be that incredible partner for everybody in our firm, to build that ecosystem that starts to bring everything together. And that's where I think my DNA of wanting to continue to innovate, building great cultures that are full of high performance, high impact for our clients, and doing it at scale. There's a great mix of the DNA that brings those things together. So, it's a different role. I've been a CEO most of my career, but I always say anybody can go to wherever, FedEx, and print out business cards that say CEO. It's how are you going to make an impact on the space, and what are you going to do to actually drive a better solution for people? And when we do that, everybody wins. Their clients win, the advisors win, and then we do our part and we share in that value cycle as well. So what always drives me is that impact with the space, impact on our clients, impact with my team. I'm fortunate enough to have a great team that I get to work with every day, even if it's not in person every day. We're talking to each other every day and really thinking about how are we going to innovate, but then do this in a way that actually drives scale. Because that's the other piece of this. One of the pieces about starting Summit, we actually built, this is super technical, but we built a single tenancy model from the beginning that allows for increased scale, that allows for increased security, and allows for increased flexibility and how data maintained. Now we get to produce that out into the market in a way that is starting to up-level everything that a firm can do in all areas, and how they're processing their data, how they're bringing it together for client experience, how they're bringing together their own flows and internal views and workflows. And it's critical that we do that with a really solid technical lens. So it's both this innovation and scale. So I've always been driven by great user experience, nice, easy to use, organic UIs with incredible data foundations. And I think that's this next phase. And I think just syncing up with Orion, we have that DNA. Natalie, Wolfson, our CEO, has a DNA. It's present everywhere in our organization. So it's really been a great fit coming together, and allows me to, in some ways, flex a lot of those muscles that I would have at Advent with similar DNA. And now we are here. So it's exciting for me personally.
That's great. You've been kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool, right? You're not just running a firm that was built from scratch to do a certain job. Orion has been growing through multiple acquisitions over many years: portfolio management, CRM, reporting, investment solutions. So how do you think about this integration puzzle that now you're in charge of? It's easy to look to the outside and throw stones at a company, but now you're in charge of it. Now, not from a technical standpoint, but from an operating model and a client experience perspective, how do you manage this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not incredibly straightforward how to bring all these disparate systems together. With some are written on different platforms, different languages, different user bases. But I will say the big, it feels like a little bit of an unfair advantage we have now is how the data flows more easily. I think our Summit data model on the back end is going to help with this, but also AI. AI is bridging these gaps really effectively in ways it didn't be before. And it's reinventing even what some of these systems are. If you think about what we're doing in CRM planning, even, portfolio reporting, all of these pieces that affect a client, it's really starting to lump together into something that, is more of a client intelligence platform in how things are going to flow. So I think we're going to start to see some of the work we're doing today is towards this, but we're going to see some of those walls start to break down a little bit more because of AI. So the whole point, though, is to make sure that we can create a connected fabric across them. And the other thing I will say, and I mentioned this about our people, the other huge benefit we have from these multiple systems is that we can create multiple perspectives on how to solve the problem. Anytime you get into a single mindset perspective on something and an echo chamber, it's really dangerous. We see that in a lot of areas of life, but what we see it in technology is that you should have a strong perspective. And always, what my, best people always says, have strong convictions loosely held. When we start to get multiple perspectives from different user bases, from different systems, it really starts to create the best idea. And I'm always a big fan of, I'll come in confident with an idea, but I want the best idea for us, the best solution for our clients to win. So because we have this, basically this kind of mosaic that's been put together, I feel like we have a really good, informed, strong perspective on how we're going to go solve problems for our clients. And then the management of that, I've done some things where we've moved from a large number of independent squads to more fungible, business aspects and different verticals that we're separating into. So it's just the mechanics of, moving around folks into the right seats on the bus to get to a point where we can achieve the outcome. But it really is around, let's drive solutions. And let's not be myopic in terms of how they're being developed into a specific view on a page as the ultimate solution. It's how are we putting all of our knowledge together? And as we move further down that path, I've talked about simple, elegant solutions, back from the Black Diamond days. I do really feel like we're moving into a phase where it's not about the tech, it's not about the features, it's not about the platforms. It really is about the solutions and how are we delivering solutions to people's lives. And we've also launched Denali AI into beta in the fall, and we're now bringing that into availability for our clients now. It's about bringing things together in a generative capacity, having it give you insights you didn't have before. What client should I be working on today based on who's coming in next week, who we just met with, who has projects in flight, whose plans are on track, whose plans are off track. All of those things should just happen organically, and they should just melt through these solutions. And if we do our job right, you're just using your phone, talking to it each morning to make that happen.
All right, you can't just play the AI card for everything here, Reed. You can't say, well, integrations are a problem. AI is going to make that better, and user interface is a problem. AI is going to make that better, and we've got data. Though AI is going to make that better, right? This can't make everything better, right? So how will this really work? When now you're the president of Orion Technologies. You can't just throw AI at everything. You're now the legacy provider. You've got thousands of clients. You're not the upstart where you can just build stuff, throw it at the wall, see if it works, and if it doesn't, you didn't lose anything because you don't have a large client base. How are you operating now, balancing the innovation with your mission critical infrastructure that's running a large portion of the industry?
Yeah, no, I mean it's a fair question. I'm laughing because we're having a conversation about our college kids before, and thinking about AI actually does help with my teachers sometimes. How do you help with them? So I 100% agree. There's not some magic wand that happens when you just sprinkle some AI dust on things and magically work. That's not it at all. So I appreciate the call out on that. I will say though, I mean, everything we're doing from a product roadmap, and I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions of this, it all has AI built into, of course, the coding elements and all of that. We've already done that. Last year we moved that process, but also just how we're actually putting natural language process and agents connecting pieces into the solution. So it really is something where, last year we used to talk about AI first and Orion becoming an AI first company. I'm really pushing us to be an AI native company. So, but I 100% agree. You can't just solve AI with everything. What I really am seeing though is there is a shift here that I haven't seen since Black Diamond and starting Black Diamond. And that say I started in mid 2000s or 03, brought to market, I guess in 05. At that point, Web 2.0 is what made it possible. Web 1.0 wouldn't have worked. You had, bandwidth increases, you had processing increases, you had more visual ability to display things, you had easier login, you had higher trust in that. AI is that next shift I've seen, and we've had cloud computing, we've had other things, we've done stuff with atomic design, we've done stuff with microservices. All of those things are incremental. AI is the big seismic shift that I haven't seen in 20 years. Since the Web 2.0 model. So if you hear my excitement about it, it's because it's a tool at the end of the day. And we're just trying to leverage the tool to make it work. But there's so many things that when I actually sit down to code something, the different use cases of even how data would sync to each other, a lot of data will sync, 90% of the data will sync, 95%, even 99% of the data will sync. That last 1%, that can be, 100x your time on the other pieces. Now, instead of having to write case statements, literal case statements and switch statements in code, now we can start to use confidence intervals with AI, matching them across, and then test those back, and then even have the AI come up with plans on how we can do that more effectively. I do really see there's a ton of power in this. So, I think the question is you can't just lean back on it. I 100% agree, but I can't underscore how powerful it is. And if firms aren't adopting this mindset and mechanism, things are going to change quickly around you. So if it goes back to our install base, what we're going to do, everything we do has started with guardrails, started with a really deep dive into our clients' data protection before we did anything with AI in a meaningful way. Last year, when I first got here, we started that process, spent about 6 months getting up to speed, working with preferred vendors, working on agreements that would protect our clients. And put it now, even when we're releasing Denali, the client is an advisor's control of every data that's being put into the AI in a transparent mechanism that they are configuring themselves. So that side of it, I think, is great because we have, really an enterprise mindset around any of this with this entrepreneurial spirit to go make this a reality. So I'm not trying to dodge the AI can't solve everything. I agree, but I can't underscore how important it is for us. And if you think about building out this next great Orion and what this looks like, it's going to be the bedrock and foundation for the next 5 years plus.
Excellent answer to that question, Reed. Well done. So, you mentioned Denali AI, and I know that the 7 PR people here are dying for more information about that from you. But I have a couple of questions. So I've been around a while. You've been around a while, and obviously everyone is relying on their vendors to deliver some sort of AI solutions. You, Envestnet, like the other Advent, Advizon, all the larger players in our space now have access to tremendous amounts of data that they can provide round trip information on what is working, what isn't working, what's trading, what's not trading, and then feed that back to advisors. So it's a huge race now to provide a platform for your clients to be even more efficient, even more productive than they were in the past. And you're positioning Denali as an enterprise intelligence layer that sits across your entire system, but the architecture is still anchored in your Orion's data layer, which you control, right? Every open AI decision still flows through your pipes, right? So is this really a new platform, or is it just a very sophisticated overlay on top of Orion's technology?
Great question. And really the pipes underneath are pretty sophisticated in terms of what they do. And Denali came to life as a result of us being able to leverage the Orion existing infrastructure. And we've been using, data lake-ish models for years. And Redshift was announced years ago, using Snowflake as well. Denali was a platform built on the back end. It was basically powered the Summit data engine on the back end. It was built to be low code, no code data pipeline origination, and then actually storing that data into the data lake in either the rich data set, which is the full API coming in, or just the pick pieces coming out that go into custom to keep data points for us, as kind of we call it, and display those out for our clients. Picking out each of those is actually what goes into the AI models today. And again, the client's got control of that. So to answer your question, the infrastructure is laid through the Denali portion of Summit and its true single tenancy data lake on the back end, combined with the power of all of the Orion data, whether it's in Redtail, whether it's in the portfolio accounting data, whether it's in our planning system, our risk systems, compliance, trading, bringing all of that together into something that is now processable. And it does go through our AI platform to do that. But again, dictated by the firm, dictated by provisioning, the guardrails that are put around that. The new technology is really what we've built. And in some ways, I call this, called 4 years of Summit all coming together in partnership now that we're part of Orion to make this a reality for clients and make this a reality for our 3,000 plus tech customers, 25,000 plus advisors on the platform, and 100,000 plus users that we have. Now we're starting to make this reality and starting to share that intelligence later across different parts of Orion and different parts of the client's business. The other big thing too, which will be part of what we're doing in Denali, then I'll also extend further into all of our platforms, is actually making AI agents that work in orchestration with our clients' AI agents. Our clients are going to develop them. They should continue to develop them. They have their own data structures. Some of them have their own data lakes. So they're going to start to use technologies that will quickly allow them to have workflows that work for them. We want to make sure that we're orchestrating all of this, whether it's an account opening, whether it's in billing, whether it's in setting up a new plan, setting up a proposal. We are building an orchestration layer that allows us to use our agents, and then wherever is needed, plug in a client's agent as well, and do that through different versions of data exchange, and then also really just what steps are needed where, and potentially even do that down to the advisor level by the user to be able to put in their own unique instructions. We've already constructed Denali in a way that can be multi-layer prompts, multi-layer engines. So it's basically our core engine, but then the firm can make it whatever they want with their knowledge base sitting on top of it, of how they want advisors to look at their book of business, how they want advisors to service their clients. And you can have teams. This is how we like to service our clients more, depending on maybe stratification of the firm or even geography or any other variable. And then even down to the user. This is my personal preference and what this looks like. So we're actually building this intelligence layer. It's based on AI, but it's also a tailored intelligence layer to have some good output. And we're not just building tech for tech's sake or solutions for solution's sake. It's so that advisors can deliver faster speed to advice, they can increase their capacity, and they can focus on organic growth. And those are all the pieces that we focus on across any piece of the Orion platform. But it really was born out of our work on building this, really great flexible data pipeline, data lake before people were even talking about data lakes, from the beginning of the Summit evolution, and now marrying that with the Orion data backend, for lack of a better term.
I find vendors are great at making announcements about new platforms, but then you never hear about them again. Like you just mentioned Redshift, that was supposed to be the big thing. That was the thing where all of our clients are going to work on Redshift. They can get any data they want out of it. It's going to be great. And then you don't hear about it anymore. It's like it disappears. So what happened to that? Did it convert into Denali? Is Denali taking over that? Is Denali going to disappear? What's going on here?
All good questions. Redshift did not disappear. It's a core backbone of what we use. We have many clients that are tapping into it. Again, it was an optional component for clients to be able to use, and whether they wanted to set up their own Redshift instance to connect in. It is still a huge core part of our strategy, and it'll continue to evolve. And what we look at it from a broader data lake perspective, we do see bringing together a holistic data set as being critical. And what I mean by that is continuing to bring in data we don't own, for lack of a better term, but is critical that we bring in, call it data from Salesforce into the platform and start to generate the right next best actions based on that data, start to integrate with the workflows that clients have already built and invested into Salesforce. What we really want is an open architecture ecosystem to make this work really effectively. And Denali is absolutely the backbone of that. And I have zero expectation of it going away. And if we do our job right, what we're doing with this will help move our space forward and move it into something that is a more innovative, more solution-based thing. So I understand, there's a lot of people love making announcements. My DNA is always, let's go build it and then let's share what's working well. And I think that's going to be a continuation of what we do. We'll keep learning from our clients. That innovation flywheel is critical. But we expect Denali to be a critical part of the next 5+ years of our advisors and our client success and our space's success if we do our jobs right.
Yeah, it's hard to put a number of years on that when things are moving so quickly.
Yeah. Somebody asked me, what's it going to look like in 20 years? I said, what's it going to look like in 5 years? I mean,
I was going to ask you 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't going to ask 5 years anymore. I go 2 to 3.
Exactly.
That's the most. All right. So one of the things I see that platforms like Denali and that your competitors are launching is next best actions. And we've talked about it for years, but we never really had the data and the capability to analyze the terabytes and terabytes of information that are coming out at an advisory firm and provide value added back to that. As you mentioned, high impact results that we have now. So we're going to be seeing tremendous benefits to firms that have the right next best action for each advisor at each point in time with each client throughout the day. So, but what happens when the next best action is wrong? Are they going to call Orion? Is it their own fault? What's the compliance and oversight there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the things I think it's critical is that transparency and why the decision was being made. At the end of the day, there is culpability at any time for any advisor to be able to make sure that the data and what they're looking at from a potential foundation of next best actions or even the action itself seems viable. But I will say that we've taken a lot of lengths to put together explainability, put together reproducible queries. So a lot of AI, so this is a great technical point. A lot of AI is based on just a bunch of inference models, looking at vector databases and kind of making assumptions of what's to do next. Ours is different. And the reason, we've gone and built on top of our Denali technology is that we've built a query language that's repeatable for all of the data that you'd be searching for, that's authenticated, that's permissioned just for that advisor. So it's, again, super technical. But what that does is it actually gives you a repeatable set of data that you can double check. So any of the data that's produced in our Denali engine, you can go look at the query itself in the data set that was produced to make that happen. It's not just inferred data from AI going out and checking databases or documents to make something happen. It's literally the data backbone. And then we track every one of those data requests. We track everything that's being asked of the engine for reproducibility and for auditing. So I think I can't underscore enough, working with partners that are thinking about that trust, that thinking about that authorization set first, is going to be critical to protecting your client's data. But what that also does, if you do that really well, then you have a better reproducible set of data. And in some ways, you can also double check the agents themselves to see what they're producing. So that's a big part of what we do, as well as looking at the signal that's being produced out of each of the next best actions, or I'll just say the answer, in any kind of generative AI conversation with Denali. And are we hitting the mark? And are we getting, follow-up questions that are in line, or are we getting follow-up questions that didn't work? Give me something else there. So I think there's a learning curve in all of this, but I can't underscore enough, like having a really strong foundational layer where you have observability, repeatability, transparency, is critical to making sure that AI is working how you expect it to. And we've done a ton of work to make sure that that's a reality first. And it built on top of what we've been doing for a few years in our Denali engine as well.
Oh man, time has passed us by. I had a couple more questions, but I'm not gonna have time to sneak them in. But so looking ahead on the roadmap for Orion, is there anything you can share that's coming in the pike that is exciting? Just in the next 12 months, forget 2 years.
Yeah. We have so much that we're excited about. We've released a new version of AI powered Query Studio, so getting better access to your data across all of the Orion, I would say portfolio accounting, billing, reporting, trading systems. We're doing work on our CRM, kind of a client intelligence system as we speak. I've seen some POCs. They look amazing in terms of what we can do and build out for our clients. We're starting to rethink how planning fits in to all these things. So I think we'll have more to tell you as we get more of it done. But, talk about time going fast. That is the thing, is AI is actually speeding up our timelines pretty materially, and that we can actually code faster and we can test faster and we can get it in clients' hands faster. So I would expect, our flywheel, we'll announce a bunch of stuff, and it won't be stuff that just goes away. It'll be stuff that continues to power people's life. That's my DNA. It's always the principle of, have that innovation flywheel, put the first things first and keep your client in focus, and good things happen. And, here to actually move the space forward. So many things that we'll be working on. That'll be AI driven intelligence, but also just continuing to be that great scalable operational partner for our clients, and allowing people to grow 3 to 5x on our platforms over the next however many months or years they want to choose for that. But that's what I love. And I love building really innovative, repeatable, high impact solutions for people. And we have a team that loves to do that. So it's been great. And I'm excited to see what we do next with it.
I'm going to buy a T-shirt that says "High Impact."
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Or a hat. It's your new catchphrase.
That's right.
Read "High Impact" Colley.
That's right. High impact.
Reed, you've said it all. Really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Craig.
Hey, it's Craig again, and here are my top 3 takeaways from this episode. Number 1. Orion is building an AI native platform that goes beyond just sprinkling AI dust on existing systems. The goal is to create a truly connected, intelligent fabric across all of Orion's solutions, from portfolio accounting to CRM to financial planning. This will allow advisors to get proactive, personalized insights and recommendations to drive efficiency and growth. 2, transparency and explainability are critical for Orion's AI initiatives. Denali AI is built on a foundation of repeatable data queries and processes, so advisors can audit the data and logic behind any AI-driven recommendations or actions. This helps build trust in the technology. 3, the competitive landscape is rapidly evolving, with new AI-powered startups popping up that can quickly build functional, if not fully mature, solutions across the advisor tech stack. Reed acknowledges this threat, but believes Orion's focus on scalable, high-impact solutions will keep them ahead of. Congratulations! You've reached the end of another episode of the WealthTech Today podcast. But before you go, please drop by our website, ezragroup.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, and sign up for our newsletter. Once a month, you'll receive an email full of wealth management goodness, news, information, and analysis. You won't be disappointed. Well, thanks again for listening, and talk to you all again next time.